Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MacMan here. Thought we could go over some of the cards, or all of the cards that you get with the Naxxramas expansion, or adventure, whatever you want to call it. I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at what you actually get now that I've completed everything. If you missed any of the videos on how I got here, feel free to take a look. I'll leave the links in the description. 5 weeks, five adventures, if you will. And here we go. So let's take a look at what we've gotten from Naxxramas. First of all, the Undertaker. Fantastic card. Given the amount of Deathrattle cards that were included in this expansion set, plus the Deathrattle cards that already exist, it's very likely you can combo him with something, if you're looking to do so, obviously. One cost, 1/2, in and of itself is already value. I mean, you talk about other cards that most other one-cost cards are, if they have any unique value to them like this, are already 1/1s. So 1/2, you're already starting with something that can handle, let's say, an early one cost, 1 health minion, and maybe take them out and not even have to trade. So you're looking good here with the Undertaker, and I like the idea of comboing him with the Leper Gnome, because then you get 2 1-cost minions out there. When the Leper Gnome dies, now all of a sudden you have a 2/3 for your 1 cost. It's a lot of ways you can go with this. I like it a lot. Zombie Chow. By the way, you can see I completed all my heroic challenges as well. I love the heroic challenges because, unlike the normal modes, which most of them were pretty much easy to do, I don't want to say too easy, but they were easy. They were fun, but not as challenging. But the heroic modes, boy, I can see a lot of people are probably not going to make it through there. And I'm okay on the design. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I'm going to use it for a while just because it's different. I always like the new card, whatever it is, except for that rainbow one. But anyway, so Zombie Chow. Zombie Chow, I can't imagine getting too much play. And the reason for that is, although it's a 1-cost 2/3, which is very nice, you basically have to hit the opposing hero 3 times to get any value out of him. Because if you think about it, you hit him 3 times, you do 6 damage, he dies, they get 5 back, and really you've done 1 damage for 1 cost, and that's 3 turns worth of damage. I can't imagine a lot of situations where that happens. How often do you put down a minion on turn 1 or 2 and they're dead the next turn? So, especially a guy like this that can restore health. Now, obviously, if you can combo this with silence, but I don't know. Am I going to carry a 1-cost Zombie Chow that's worth 2/3 just in the off chance that I can silence him? It's probably not worth it, but it's a cool idea, cool card. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, it reminds me, if you do not know this, you should check it out, because if you're into art at all, if you really like this artwork, you might find certain artists, certain cards that you're attracted to. The artwork, you can actually search for artists down in the search bar. They added that, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 patches ago, but now you can search by artist name and actually pull up all the cards that they did the artwork for. It's pretty cool, pretty neat. Echoing Ooze. So the Echoing Ooze, you can see he's a 1/2 for 2, as opposed to our Undertaker is a 1/2 for 1. But you're really not going to use him as a pure 1/2, just 2 cost, throw him out there, even though really what you're getting is 2 1/2s. What you're really trying to do here is obviously buff the hell out of him and just try to get him to then duplicate. So obviously a Blessing of Kings on this is going to make it a 5/6, and then all of a sudden you have 2 5/6s for your 2 costs, things like that, or really in that case 6 costs, but you get the idea. Early on in a deck, if you can get a buff on this early, Defender of Argus on it, so then you have really what you're talking about is 2 2/3s with Taunt on them. So pretty neat things you can do with this Echoing Ooze. I like it a lot. Haunted Creeper. Summon 2 1/1 Spectral Spiders when he dies. I'm already seeing this quite a bit, and that's because it's been around for 5 weeks already. I believe it was the first card you get in the first week, if not the first. It's one of them. And boy, I mean, the value on this, you talk about a card that you're going to see all the time. I mean, how many times do you see the Golem, the Harvest Golem? And that's because you can't get him with regular board clear. You're going to have to kill him and then kill whatever comes after him. In this case, you're going to have to kill 1 and then kill 2 more that spawn afterwards. So he's a real pain in the neck for 2 cost, a ton of value there. And he's a beast, so he works well with Hunter Beast decks. Mad Scientist. Interesting card. I mean, obviously you're talking about 3 heroes that have secrets, so you're already limiting down to 3 decks that it really works with. So that's already pretty specific. And when it comes to secrets, you really want to have the right secret for the right situation. You know, imagine you have, you know, you're playing somebody, you're playing a hunter, and you have somebody you're playing against, and they break this guy out, and you end up with an explosive trap, but they only have one guy on the board, and he won't even die to it, and suddenly you've wasted a secret. So it's not like it duplicates it or just grabs one and puts it in. It's using the one from your deck. So it can be problematic, but that being said, you could be ending up with, you know, a 2-cost 2/2 who also puts a 2 or 3-cost card in play. So I mean, that's a lot of value too, and if you hit it right, you can do a lot of damage. I don't like this card. I mean, stat-wise, it's fine. 2-cost 1/4. Again, you're getting pretty decent value for that, especially if you're trying to put up. If you can, you know, then use a you know, shield on this guy, put a taunt on this guy with a rush deck going against you. They got a hammer against him for a while because he has a lot of health for a 2-cost minion. But that being said, his battlecry, you know, silencing or costing battlecry with 2 more. That just seems so iffy to me. I don't really see a situation where you're going to know that it's hurting the other guy. And by the way, you're hurting yourself here as well, so you'd have to kind of work around your own card. It seems a little bit costly. But, I mean, that might be sort of the point. A 2-cost 1/4, it may have to cost you something. You know, and a lot of these cards in this expansion set are based on that idea that you get something, but you got to give something. And you saw that with a lot of the heroes that you were fighting against. A lot of them did more damage to themselves than they did to you early on in games. Narumiya egg. Narumiyan egg. I'm already using this quite a bit. It works in most decks. You can use this either as a deterrent to things like board clear, explosive trap, or blizzard, things like that. Because automatically they use a board clear, and right away you have a 4/4 pop up right after it, which is just killer for a board clear. So I love it because it makes other decks think about other people you're playing against. Really think twice about using their board clear if they're just going to leave this guy behind to punch him in the face next turn. Anyway, that being said, it also works great as a companion to a hero power that can do damage to it, such as a mage or a deck that has the ability to do damage to its own minions like the warrior has and things like that. So it's very cool. Also, you can buff it with, you know, whatever buffs you have, and you can attack with it, and possibly attack with it, kill something, and get your 4/4 back, or at least attack something, kill it, and get your 4/4 out of it. So there's a lot you can do with it. We're going to see this quite a bit. As a matter of fact, you may even see the health on this get buffed up a little bit to make them a little harder to kill, so that you don't get this 4/4 too early. But we will see. Unstable Ghoul. Again, an obvious deterrent to rush decks. If you're facing a lot of rush in meta, you're going to want to use the unstable ghouls to slow it down. Not only do they have to kill it, but then it deals 1 damage to everything. So even things with 2 health, if they have to hit this with something with 2 health, it's still going to die. So very, very, very good card for dealing with rush decks. And one of the things I know Blizzard was saying they were trying to do was limit the amount of changes they're making to cards and dealing with card problems with new cards, and I think that's what this expansion did in a lot of cases. The Unstable Ghoul is a direct result of that concept. Okay, Dancing Swords. A 3-cost 4/4. Powerful at turn 3. But powerful enough to warrant giving the opponent a card. Really depends on the type of deck that you're running. This can be an interesting thing, though, if you're let's say you're using a Paladin, and you're going to use Divine Favor, because basically you're giving yourself a draw card. Give them a card, you're going to take a card back. So, and you get your 4/4 for 3 costs. So depending on the type of deck you have, that Deathrattle might not bother you quite as much. Death Lord. I mean, I don't know if there's another card that gives you more stats for less. I mean, you're talking 10 stat points for 3. 6 for 3 would be normal value, you know, with taunt and all that kind of stuff. Taunt and Deathrattle plus 10 stat points. Of course, the Deathrattle is killer. I mean, you could end up putting some massive... I mean, imagine on turn 3, imagine they managed to kill us on turn 4 or 5, and suddenly they have a Ragnaros or something that you can't deal with at turn 5. I mean, this can end up being really great or really bad. Obviously really great against the rush deck, because the worst thing they're going to pull is something that does like 4 or 5 damage, which wouldn't be the end of the world, and probably has low health anyway. So, again, problematic though if you're throwing it against a deck that has a lot of legendaries or things like that. Imagine a Ysera coming out at turn 4 or 5. Ooh, that would be tough to deal with. So, kind of cool. I do like it. Obviously, again, stat-wise it's good, but there's your penalty. Shade of Naxxramas. It's going to be interesting to see how people play this card, because he is stealthed, and you know, you're going to be anxious sitting there with him kind of building up stats. I mean, if you can throw him out of turn 3 and leave him alone for a little while, but I don't know, you know, even at that point, I don't know that his stats ever really catch up. I mean, at turn 3 he's a 2-2, at turn 4 he's a 3-3. He's always going to be able to be dealt with at some point, but if you have a deck where you can leave him for a little bit, if you don't need to start trading with him and stuff, he will be problematic for people to deal with later in the game. But how long can you really leave him there just kind of stealthed out, you know? So if you can throw him and buff him and get him going a little bit sooner, protect him a little bit, then I could definitely see him being a big addition. So he's an interesting card, but because he starts so low for 3 cost, right off the bat he's not worth the cost, but over time maybe he becomes more worth it. Stoneskin Gargoyle, again another answer to the rush. You can pick off 2 1s, 3 1s, 1 1s, and then have this guy basically just re-heal at the end of or at the beginning of your next turn. So a lot of answers to rushes in this deck. So it seems like they really want things to become more of a mid-game type of game and get away from the rushing, which you know, I don't think anybody's really going to be that upset about. I love playing the ladder. The lowest I've gotten at the end of a season was 2. I didn't get the legendary yet, but I don't like the idea that once I'm down there, I'm kind of forced to play a certain kind of deck to have any consistent success. You know, so hopefully this mixes it up enough, but you know, eventually 2 or 3 decks will rise and you'll have to deal with those, but we'll see. For now, it's going to be a little bit up in the air, I would imagine. Baron Riven there, obviously, big deal for this. A lot of death rattles, so now they death rattle twice. But again, I mean, not all death rattles are positive for the owner of the card. You know, imagine death rattle twice on something like Deathlord. You know, that would be a nightmare. But that being said, he's a 4 cost, only does 1 damage, but has 7 health, easy to keep alive at that time in the game. In the right kind of deck, he might be really interesting. So there's a lot of real good death rattles if you can get him out there with your other death rattles, but it's also timing. You know, you have to get him out there and then manage to have other things trigger at the right time. The Wailing Soul. His battle cry silence all your other minions. Now this, in combination with some of those bad battle cries, that's pretty good. But again, everything's just got to set up right to make him worthwhile. Otherwise, he can really backfire. I mean, there's a lot of things here that really can backfire. I mean, how many things do you have that you would not want silenced? So, you know, it's almost like this needs to be set up so that this is a centerpiece of your deck, and the cards you're putting around it need to be silenced to get your value out of them. So we'll see. We'll see how people decide to work these in. It's going to be exciting to see how people work these cards in. Of course, you have Fugan and Stalag, which we'll look at in a second. Their big thing is when they're both dead, they summon Thaddeus, who is an 11/11. So now you're talking about a big boy that you got to deal with. And most decks have big removal for something like that. But you're talking about Fugan's a 4/7 and Stalag's a 7/4. If you can manage to get both of those out, they're going to have to use some of that removal more than likely. Especially for this guy. You know, a 5-course 4/7 is pretty good value, and the fact that he's got 7 health is going to make him a total pain in the neck. I mean, imagine a Chillwind Yeti at 4 as a 4/5 health, and you know how much trouble you have with him most of the time. Now this guy's coming out next turn with a 4/7 on top of whatever else is going on. That's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to deal with. Lotheb. Now this is one that was made to deal with the Miracle Rogue, obviously. Miracle Rogue, you know, generally you get a sense of when they're going to start spiking their magic, you know, up around that turn 7, turn 8 type deal. And you throw him down, and all of a sudden that next turn they're just dead in the water because they can't get their minions out. So they can't get their spells out, I should say, so they can't do all their card drawing to set up for their big miracle finish. So he can be really cool. Plus, at 5/5 for 5, he's not terrible value either. 10 stat points for 5 costs is not bad. This is a really, really nice battle cry, especially like mages too. Those big frost mages and stuff, when you know they're setting up for those big kills, if you get a sense of it, throw that out and they're basically dead for the next turn. Sludge Belcher. Brr. Sludge Belcher. Love him. Love the Sludge Belcher. His individual stats not great, but again, just like with the what was I saying before? The Harvest Golem. You know, same type of deal. You can't just get rid of the Sludge Belcher. You got to deal with another slime that has taunt as well. So, sort of a double taunt. It's very cool. So board clear doesn't really help you there. I like it a lot. Neither one of them are worth their value, but total you have 4, 7, which again is the same as we just saw with was it Fugan, 4, 7. So it's the same stat line, just broken up. You could almost at this point start building decks off of minions that summon minions. It could be that would be a real pain in the neck deck to deal with. I'm almost tempted to do that. Give as many minions as I can that summon other minions. Either because they die and they pull something from the deck or whatever. It might be interesting. Spectral Night. I love the Spectral Night. Big pain in the neck. At turn 5, you're throwing a 4/6 out. If they can't use a spell to get rid of it, they're going to have a real hard time getting rid of it at that point. He almost acts like a taunt because they're going to have to throw minions at him to get rid of him. And with 6 health, he's going to be a pain in the neck to deal with because he cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers. Pretty cool. He can be silenced, however, by using, you know, one of your silence minions, but spell-wise he cannot be targeted. There's the other half of the combo for Thaddeus Static, who has a 7/4 stat line. He's going to end up being much easier to get rid of, but if they can't get rid of him right away, he's going to do a lot more damage. But that 4 health at turn 5, any deck should be able to handle that. If you can't handle a 4 health minion at turn 5, then you got a problem. So he won't last as long. But again, the trick is, if Fugan's already dead and you see Static sitting on the board, what do? You know, if you're killing him, all of a sudden you got to deal with Thaddeus, and if you don't have a way to deal with him, you got to take 7 damage from him. So those are going to be fun. But you know, you have 30 cards, and you're talking about pulling 2 out of 30 cards. You're not going to see that combination a lot, even if people are trying to pull it off. But if you pull it off, boy, that could be a tough pill to swallow for your enemy. My Exna, quality card. Stat line's terrible, but it doesn't matter because I mean, basically they could have 1 damage, it wouldn't matter. The 8 health is what matters because they're going to be hitting other minions, but they'll kill anything they hit. So, just like the Emperor Cobra, you're going to get good value trades out of this potentially. Again, with that 8 health, you're probably going to get at least a couple of trades out of it. So, yeah, nothing wrong with this card whatsoever. Kind of nice. And of course this big boy, which I cannot figure out a situation where I can use him given his cost. You love the idea that all of the minions that have died this turn come back, but you're talking about playing him at turn 8 and then having enough minions die on that turn to make it worth your while. He's a very odd card. Very odd card. I like it for what it does. You know, 6/8. You know, on top of this, of course, you have your stats. So, I mean, he is a 6/8, but for 8 value, you could be putting out a Ragnaros. You could be putting out, you know, most of the other legendaries that have better stat lines than this. But boy, he could be fun in the right situation. But he is very situational, boy. That would be tough to find the right situation and have him come out at the right time. And then once he's there, they're just going to concentrate on killing him instead of the other minions, so he's almost a taunter as well. But I don't know. I'd be interested to see if I have a feeling I may never see him played or of much use in a regular ladder game, but maybe in some of the unranked matches he could be kind of fun. I want to see if I can figure out a really good way to use him. Alright, so those were all the neutral cards. You're talking about, what do we got here? 8, 16, 21 neutral cards. And then you have one per hero from the hero challenges. Let's take a look at those. Poison Seeds, destroy all minions and summon 2/2 Trents to replace them. Potentially great card, could be a huge windfall. If the other guy's got a bunch of stuff, this could be really nice against giants, you know, giant decks and stuff like that. You'd much rather have 2/2s than 8/8s out there. So it could be good. It could be good. I could see carrying one. You know, I don't see a situation where if you need to, honestly, I think if you need this twice to survive, you're not going to live very long anyway. So I think once is probably enough. You could get, you know, your Trents out with charge. You can have them attack, and if they survive, you can then replace them, you know, things like that. But that's a high cost proposition. It'd be interesting to see if people find good ways to use that as well. Here it is. This is this is the card that gets talked about, I think, the most in terms of its usefulness. There are people who think it's going to be a great card and people who think it's going to be a terrible card. And I guess it all matters how much randomness you like in your game. He is completely random. I mean, I threw him into a beast deck just to see. You know, you get 2 more beasts out of it, so you have more potential combos. But you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I can get anything from a 1/1 to getting King Crush. And as it turned out, the first time I used him, I got a King Crush. Now, I couldn't use him because he was, you know, turn 9. It was like turn 2 when he died. But that's in addition to your deck. So it's going to be something from the game. It's not necessarily going to be something from your deck. And so it's really like having 32 cards with the additional 2 cards being beasts. And these guys are beasts as well. So for beast decks, it's just more beasts. You can just throw more beasts in there. But it's been a while since beast decks have been overly effective. We'll see if they can make a comeback and if Web Spinner has anything to do with that. Duplicate. Mages rejoice. A lot of mages like to play a lot of secrets. Mage secret decks used to be one of the things and a tough thing to deal with. And Duplicate's not going to make that any easier. You think about a mage deck, you know, you could have some pretty nasty minions being duplicated. On the other hand, it can backfire. I mean, if you have that secret sitting there, people start getting used to you having it. They're going to start taking out your lesser minions if they have the option. And you could end up with some real crap in your hand. But it's a secret. It's a 3-cost secret, so it's not the worst thing in the world. There's very few minions out there that you would have on a board as a mage that you wouldn't be welcoming 2 copies of. But imagine the possibilities of having, let's say, a Ragnaros on the board, and then you have Duplicate out there, and they kill the Ragnaros, and boom, you got 2 more Ragnaros in your hand. That would be pretty sick. I was pretty disappointed when I found out what the card was going to be for Paladin, because I do play a lot of Paladin. I do have a golden hero for Paladin. He's the one I took down to a level 2 with sort of a mid-range Paladin deck, which I showed you a little bit of in the playthroughs. And I don't play a lot of secrets. I guess maybe that's part of my problem with it. I was really hoping for a minion, though. They really could use another minion to play, but it's not a bad secret. It's only 1 cost, so as secrets go, I mean, it's a cheap secret. Obviously, the Paladin secrets are cheap anyway, but you know, 1 cost for 3/2 is good. The fact that it's random can be a little funky, but I mean, if you can put this out early in the game, especially with the kind of deck that I was playing, generally I don't have a good turn 2 play, so I end up putting out a, you know, using my hero power, putting out a nice 1/1. If I do that a couple times and I have the secret sitting there, suddenly I have a 4/3 sitting there. It could be a really interesting play. This is going to actually be pretty good for rush decks, for Paladin rush decks. So it will get played, and I'm sure it's going to come in handy a lot of times. I'm more disappointed with what could have been than I am with this card. It's obviously a good value card. Something they thought was needed. They know better than I do. Dark Cultist. One of the other decks I've been playing a lot lately is the Priest, and this is the Priest's card. So Dark Cultist, give a random friendly minion +3 health. This guy, I find when I'm playing against him now, I give him more, what's the word I'm looking for? I give him more credit. I treat him as a higher priority target than I probably need to. What's nice about him, though, is he's got good stats, as most hero cards do. Most class cards do. They have a little bit better stats than most of their neutral counterparts. But, you know, 3-4 for 3 cost is pretty good, and then plus the 3 health, something else eventually. So it's a good, solid card. I have no problem with this card whatsoever. It'll work in most decks you're going to put together as a priest. The priests don't have a lot of low-cost options, so it fits right in. Okay, so this brings us to the rogue card. And this ambusher here. Return a random friendly minion to your hand. I don't like this card, personally. When I'm playing against a rogue, I welcome it. It's an opportunity then to take him down and take something else out with it. You'd have to use this in a certain situation where you'd want to remove another card from the board, but since you don't have control over which one, it can be really problematic. And it's got 5 health, so it's possible it could be sitting there a few turns, and if that's the case, now as a rogue playing cards, you got to start thinking about what cards you want out there. Do you really want them returned to your hand? So, again, good cost. 5/5 for 4 is really nice value. The Yeti would be a 4/5 for 4 with no other options. Although, again, questionably, because I'm not sure that this is as good a play as it is a negative. But it's an interesting card. We'll see. Gotta love this card. I mean, 2 cost. Reincarnate. So think about this. You're playing a giant deck. You throw out a couple of 8/8s with taunt. So they start hammering on one of them. They get it down to about 2 health. You figure something like that. And boom. Next turn you just hit it with this reincarnate. It kills. Well, first of all, you hit them for 8. Reincarnate it. Comes back to life with a full 8/8. I mean, this right here, if they're chipping away at something, is amazing. Really amazing card. And again, only 2 costs to bring something back. Obviously, this can also be used with rushes. So, Leroy, reincarnate, Leroy. So they have 6 cost, 12 damage. So a lot of uses for this. It's a real nice card for the Shaman to have. They needed something to sort of boost them a little bit. And there it is. I like that card. It's one of my favorite class cards, actually, that came out of this set. Got the Warlock, Void Curler. This one, at first I saw it and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. They're gonna pull a demon, but they're pulling it from their hand. And that sort of neutralizes it a bit. Because at first I thought they were pulling it from the deck, and that would be sick. I mean, a 4 cost, 3/4, and then it's gonna be replaced with another demon, which, could be something like, it could be a Voidwalker, which is not that big a deal. But it could be, any of those other ones. A lot of them come with penalties that would not come off. Now, it still could. I mean, if they have it in their hand, but usually they're running with very few cards in their hands. So you could get away with killing this guy and not having it really hurt you much. But then again, you could have it pull out something that's supposed to do damage to them and doesn't, and now you have it sitting there on the board that you got to deal with it. So it's a cool card. Problem, situational, obviously. Well, what the warrior needed was more weapons. So here you go. It's got another weapon. But the Death's Bite is such an improvement from their other 2 weapons. Because it adds to the enrage factor of the warrior. So you have a 4/2 for 4. Again, comparable to their 3/2 for 3 and 5/2 for 5. But this guy here will do damage to all minions. So as we were saying before, there's a lot of minions that benefit from being dealt damage. When we were talking about the Narumiyan egg, Narumiyan eggs, all the enrage stuff that they have, warriors have a bunch of stuff that works on enrage, so and on damage. So really, very, very cool weapon. Maybe one of my favorite weapons that they have now because it has a Deathrattle. And I'm trying to think, is this the first weapon with a Deathrattle? We've had some with battle cries. We have some that do some other things, but I'm not sure any of them have a Deathrattle. So it's a cool concept, something nice to add to the game. Cool weapon. And that is that. So, yeah, so we have all that good stuff. And then, of course, the card back, which looks pretty cool, but I I wish I had a little more color in the middle. I know they want the green to stand out. I wish I had a little more color, but some of these other ones, like this is a really nice one. I don't know what's going on with that one. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. The original's pretty nice. Not as nice as some of these other ones, but still looks pretty cool. So this has been MacMan for Long Eye Gamers, taking a look at the Naxxramas set with you. I hope you enjoyed. Leave some comments. Let me know what your favorite card is. Let me know if you're disappointed about anything. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.